Everything we do is going to be about winning. Okay, we're going to learn to do things the right way, and that's the only way we're going to do them. Because if it doesn't help us, we're not doing it, man. That's just as simple as it gets. Win the Super Bowl.
That's good.
I mean it too. You know, one of the things that the only reason you become a head coach in this league, in my opinion, is to win. That's it. That's the bottom line. If you do it for any other reason, you're wrong.
Hey, football fans, welcome to the Washington Command Center. Woo! Today, we're taking a look at Week 1, the first step in this new era of Washington football, an era where this proud franchise can once again command respect. And what better way to kick off this new era than subscribing here to the first, the real, the OG Washington Command Center, so you can find your way back to some of the most opinionated and ice-cold calculated takes on all things Washington Commanders. And while you're at it, ring that bell, hit that like button. It's free to do, and it means a lot. I gotta say, I might be a little more hyped about this win than I should be, being that it was against a team that had their number one overall pick 2 years in a row. But it's the same team that had the gall to try to clown us on Twitter all the way back in May. A team profile that tagged us and told us to tell Carson they said hello, which is kind of wild. A team that bad doing that. And a lot of us Commanders fans were quick to chalk this up as a dub as soon as we got the schedule. But haters out there and some of our more diplomatic fans and content creators were quick to say, Washington hasn't done enough to count any free wins. Well, after yesterday, all I got to say to the Jags is, Carson said sup. And I also love that I saw Jason Wright out there still going hard on Twitter defending Wentz. It was just great. Since then, I've got to, go back and watch the game a couple of times now. And I'm still pumped. Outside of, that minor trash talk, this game has me feeling pretty good about my over-the-top prediction. Plus, with everything going on around the league, I'm feeling even better. Dallas is cooked already. I don't care what Jerry Jones is saying about Dak coming back in 5 weeks or 4 weeks or something like that. He's probably going to be gone for a while. And if not, the team is just wrecked anyway. So I'm feeling pretty confident. And I know it's week 1 against a bad team. But I didn't see any team in the whole NFC play this week that I didn't think we could beat. Everybody, even as good as Philly did, I told everybody that the Lions were going to be pretty good. But after watching all these teams play, I think we could beat them all. But I also want to take a victory lap as a guy that was super vocal about not wanting to trade half the team for Russell Wilson. And I want a lot of y'all out there to mark that shit down and keep that in your mind, especially when you're about to trash talk our owner for his past personnel moves. All you guys that wanted Russ, hey, we're seeing more and more come out throughout the offseason. Russell Wilson is looking like a super fake weirdo. And he would have got eaten alive by the media in this area. He's just doing a lot of weird stuff. And he's not playing good to go with it. But back to the most important part. This offense is for real. They said the last time we scored on 2 consecutive on the opening drive and the following drive in a season opener was 1991. When we went 14-2 and won our last Super Bowl against the juggernaut Buffalo Bills that were returning to the Super Bowl for the second time out of what would be 4 years. that they would eventually lose to every NFC East team except the Eagles. Now, I predicted a 13-4 season, and even though it was just the Jags, the way this offense looks, I'm standing by it. Not saying we're going to win or even go to the Super Bowl after beating the lowly Jags, but how poetic would it be to come out of nowhere to rematch the Bills in the Super Bowl 31 years later with Martin Mayhew as our GM? You know, he was drafted by the Bills in '88 before he came to Washington and then beat them in the Super Bowl. Do you believe in magic? Or maybe, you know, there just aren't so many scenarios that are programmed into the Matrix, and it's just like fashion, music, movies, politics, they all go through these similar cycles. So maybe sports does too. Maybe it's just time for Washington and Buffalo to play in the Super Bowl again. You know, football's not that old, 100 years. Maybe it's the cycle again. So I know that's all just silly coincidence, but I think it does show that this offense is pretty nice, and it shows what it can be. I think we're going to win a hell of a lot more games than any of the talking heads out there have said. First off, the O-line I thought played really well for a group with some new pieces. Norwell and Turner. Guys coming back from injuries that haven't got many reps in the offseason. Turner didn't take any reps this offseason. Roulier was out until just a week ago. He didn't take any reps. Cosme's also only coming into his second year. Wentz had time. Wentz had time to pass. They looked great out there. And I think things are only going to get better from them as the year goes on and they build chemistry. And speaking of chemistry, Carson Wentz looked great with Curtis Samuel and Dotson. How about Curtis Samuel? I really think that 27 of 41 with 4 touchdowns and, having only 2 interceptions, I think that'll get way better with that chemistry building. And I only consider that 1 interception Carson's mistake. The second was just a freak play by a freak athlete that was a number 1 overall pick. He was a number 1 overall pick and taken ahead of a lot of far more productive players because he could make those freaky type plays, because he has that kind of potential. Nobody else is probably making that interception on Carson. So, not putting that on Carson. After that, I think Curtis Samuel looked like the guy we paid for, playing that Debo role. 17 yards rushing with some nice first downs. 55 yards receiving with that big ice-breaking touchdown to start the game. And just embarrassing guys early in the game. Breaking ankles and honestly making the type of cuts not many people can make even at the NFL level. Just ruthless out there. And I know a lot of us Commanders content creators wrote him off a bit with, what happened last season with his practice routine, with the preseason. And I've said that I'd consider anything we got from him a bonus, and what a bonus it was. He looks like he's going to be a huge piece of this offense. And man, if he can keep this up, he's looking like a super bargain for what we're paying him, especially with the bag that Terry just got. And with all this, the rookie got his too. Jahan shined in his first game, 2 touchdowns, off to a great start in what will hopefully be a dominant career. And I was early on a guy that had him over a lot of Washington fans' favorite draft target, Chris Olave. Now, I didn't want a wide receiver in the first round, but I definitely had him ahead of Chris Olave. I just thought Dotson did everything he did better with less support. And they come out of their first game with almost identical 3 receptions. Olave actually got 1 more yard at 41, but Dotson torched him with 2 tubs. Olave ended up with a goose egg in his debut. 41 yards, 3 receptions, and a goose egg. Dotson got 2 tubs. Balling out. I mean, if he keeps up that, that's Hall of Fame. If he can 2 touchdowns a game, I mean, that's the way he started out. Let's go. But with all the great individual effort of our offense, I think one of the most impressive things about the game was Scott Turner's play calling and how he was able to orchestrate a 390-yard, 4-touchdown pass winning game. With only 8 combined catches from Terry, Logan, and JD, who basically carried this offense last season when they were all healthy. So, your most proven weapons contributed well, but not as much as the other guys. It's just, he showed that there's a lot of creative ways to score points with this offense. There was a lot of creative ways that he got guys in space. He used motion in a great way. And he had a play action game going that Carson was just carving these guys up with. He had a nice little 4-man bunch with some creative routes off of it. And that Gibby sail route to set up that first touchdown, that was my favorite play of the whole game. That was beautiful. And don't get me wrong, Scott, did feed those core guys. They still contributed well enough. Terry ended up with 2 catches for 58 yards and a touchdown. But the fact is, Scott was able to use all the other talent we have to move the ball, shows off his level of talent, and shows off the level of the talent that we have throughout the team. So, I think we're stacked with weapons. And just like with the offensive line, it's only going to get better. Carson's going to build more chemistry with everybody. Scott's going to dial in what works best with the playmakers. So there's just so much for us to get offensively excited about. Like, so many reasons to be excited about the offense. We had good production at tight end. Bates did his thing blocking, even though he came up short in his only target, didn't catch the pass. Dude that was just playing quarterback in college this past season, Armani Rogers, looked like an absolute natural out there with a great catch and run for 30 yards and a first down in the first drive. Then Logan got back in and was solid as ever. He picked up 3 much-needed first downs. Outside of all of that, I think one of the brightest, if not the brightest highlight, was Gibby's role. When we drafted Brian Robinson, I imagined that Brian Robinson would take over the bulk of the between the tackles work, while Gibby would move to that Alvin Kamara role and get it done there. Now, I thought he'd lose carries to Robinson while cannibalizing a lot of targets from JD. Well, we saw that even with Robinson out for at least the first 4 weeks, we got a glimpse of the kind of impact that Gibby can make in the passing game. Even while carrying the bulk of the rushing work, Gibby ended up, leading the team in rushing with 58 yards, but also leading the receiving yards too with 72. We also got a glimpse of that 20 personnel I hyped up a bit in the offseason. Gibby and Samuel in the backfield with JD and Samuel in the backfield. Man, I'm just super excited. This offense has so much potential. And like I said, it's only going to get better. The O-line chemistry is going to get better. The QB and the playmaker chemistry is going to get better. The overall comfort level of the offense is going to get better. The fine-tuning of the play calling is going to get better. And then we'll eventually get everyone back, and that'll be better. Like rookie, Brian Robinson, like Cole Turner. And I know this was just the first game against the team that had the first overall pick 2 years in a row. But I really think we have a lot to be excited about as Commanders fans. Now, on to the other side of the ball. Now, I think this wasn't as much as a wet blanket as a lot of people are acting like. I mean, far and away, the worst part of the game was losing Big Phil for the season. That's an absolute tragedy. But I don't think the defense as a whole was as bad as a lot of people act. Yes, the cornerbacks got off to a rough start. Yes, the linebacker play was pretty poor. But it was the first game with a lot of young pieces still. And yeah, we saw the veterans making some mistakes. But we really don't know what their assignments were. And if everything we view as a mistake or everything was wrong was their fault. So what we do know is that we did get some flashes from a few other guys of good play. And I think there was plenty to be optimistic about going into the season. I think everything on the defense will take a big step forward once we get Cam back and when we eventually get Chase back. Before then, I think Derek Forrest was the top defensive player this weekend. I want to talk about him. Derek Forrest, I think he could take a big step up. The first game, well, not much bigger than the first game because he was the top graded safety in the NFL for week 1, which is massive in his first real considerable playing time. I know he got some time last year, but he was injured and then mostly on special teams. But in his first considerable play time here on the defense, he looked awesome. Now I feel even more confident in saying that he should move to strong safety so that Cam can play nickel, especially with how Ben St. Juste kind of looked out of slot. I think we should just put Cam there and put Forrest in Cam's spot. Now outside of Defoe, I think the D-line looked great. The whole D-line stayed pressuring Lawrence. Even with Phil out, eventually with Allen out, we kept pressuring him to the very end with no Chase. Like no Chase Young, eventually no Jonathan Allen, and no rookie second round pick. We were still getting pressure to the very end. So I don't think that's as bad as everybody's thinking now that Big Phil's gone down for the season. I still don't think we're that bad off. I would like to see us add, a free agent or so. But I still don't think we're in bad shape, losing that player. As tragic as it is, I still think we're in good shape. And Jack Del Rio, as a guy that, a lot of people are quick to shit on, especially for the secondary play, Jack Del Rio was dialing up some nice blitzes when we need it. And I think what we're seeing from the secondary and the linebackers, all this stuff that we're blaming on Jack Del Rio, it just might be personnel problems. We just might need some other guys. So that's something I think, we definitely need to improve. I got a video coming out soon about some of those people out there on practice squads and such that could maybe help us out there. But I don't think it's the death nail with how well this defensive line and the safety group looked. I think when it all comes together, everything will be all right. I don't know. I might just be drunk off of the Commanders' inaugural win, but I'm feeling great about this team going forward, starting out with this win. And, while we're getting a better look, after getting a better look at some of the teams that we play soon, I'm feeling great. And I think it goes a long way to make me more confident in that massive 13-4 season prediction I had as being a great way to kick off this new era of Washington football. I think we're going to end up with the type of season that will command respect. And you know, folks, there's no better way to kick off this new era than subscribing here to the Washington Command Center. So you can find your way back to some of the most opinionated, ice-cold calculated, and with this team, optimistic takes on all things Washington Commanders. Like I said, I got a video coming out where I'm going to talk about some of the talent out there in different places that we could use to boost some of the areas of weakness, like the linebacker level. So keep an eye out for that. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that like if you liked it. And if you stuck around this long, I love y'all. Peace.